What's up, guys? Stephen Bogren here from Pro Physique. Today, what I want to talk about is stress management. Alright, guys, so I hope everybody's doing well, having a wonderful holiday season as always. New Year's coming up, and I know I've been talking a lot about the New Year's, new me, goal setting, how to be successful kind of video topics lately. So I wanted to give it a break today, sort of take a little bit of a time off from that and talk about something else that I feel is extremely important to the process that really gets overlooked quite often when it comes to fitness and life, right? And so that's stress management. Being able to manage life, the things around you, the stressors, everything that's happening. Now, there's definitely some reasons why this is important in terms of fitness goals. If you're extra stressed out, stress response and increased cortisol levels can actually cause you to not lose weight, and it can hinder fat gain. So there's that really big one right there. But I think for me, the real big part is quality of life. Being able to enjoy what you're doing with your life, enjoy the time that you have on this earth. So for me, stress management, yes, it definitely matters for fat loss, but it matters very, very much so for enjoying your life and having a full, wonderful life. So that's, obviously my kicker there. But kind of let's talk about what happens with stress response, right? So we have immediate stress response, which is kind of like that fight or flight, like either, hey, look, I'm pissed off and I want to punch you in the face, or like, hey, I just kind of want to run away from this because I don't think I can handle it. And so these both, it's not just like life or death situations that this happens, right? We can see it happen relationally, even with simple things, right? And so we need to be aware of the fact that that's kind of like that initial response that we have. And so being able to manage that initial response and to keep it short term, right? It's okay to want to fight. Like, a lot of people aren't going to tell you that, but it's okay to want to fight. Actually doing it as an adult has a slew of other consequences that normally makes it not okay. It's okay to want to run away. Now, if it's something important, that might not be a good idea, right? So these responses are ingrained in us. They're in our DNA, right? It's something that's helped us to survive for the entire human existence. So we don't want to deny the fact that they're there, but we do want to take them into consideration and deal with them properly. Those are normally what's going to happen with acute stresses. When we talk about acute stresses, that is short term, like a death of a loved one, somebody, ran over your foot with their car, somebody called you stupid, those sort of things. These are acute stresses, right? Those, in terms of overall health, aren't the huge concern. The real concern that we want to talk about is the chronic stressors, the ones that are happening over and over and over again, the daily stressors of life, right? And so these are things like being in an unhealthy relationship. You're constantly fighting, consistently doing things to upset one another, in a very negative manner, right? Having a job that you hate. Every single day you go in, you're stressed out, your skin tightens, your blood vessels constrict, your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure increases, right? You hate your boss, right? Every time they're just on you about something, they're always up your butt. They're always telling you that you're not doing your job well enough or you're not doing your job right. Those chronic stressors, those are the ones that we really want to worry about in terms of your quality of life and long-term health. Because remember, the stress response is the same from the body either way, right? Blood vessels constrict, blood pressures go up, cortisol increases, and there's a slew of other things that are happening as well, right? And so what happens is if that's continually happening on a regular basis, we have increased heart rate, and blood pressure all the time. We have increased risk for atherosclerosis, and as well as we know that there are a lot of emotional responses to stress as well, like poor eating habits and binging. So a lot of the times our eating disorders, if we have those, can be linked to stress, right? It's linked to how we deal with that stress response and the manner in which we perceive those things and how to cope, right? So we want to make sure that we are developing healthy coping mechanisms to deal with the stressors of life, because we don't always have control. You might not be able to just quit your job tomorrow, right? You have bills to pay. You might have a family to feed. So how do we deal with staying in that job until we can fix it and until we can change that, but still not allowing those stressors to negatively impact our life to a point where now we're taking it home, our health is being affected, our eating habits are being affected, so on and so forth. And so I just wanted to talk about some really easy things, and you can look more into them on your own, but a lot of people kind of shun at the idea of stress management, and I think that's poor decision making, because can really improve your life. So the first one is just the diaphragmatic breathing. And if you're a powerlifter, you kind of have this on point. Breathe in through your diaphragm, breathe out, nice, slow, controlled breaths. So what that will do is that will help you to just sort of get your mind off and relax. What it does is it helps unconstrict the blood vessels, deliver oxygen to tissue, and it sort of gives you just a brief moment because you're focusing on your breathing, so you're not focusing on the stressor. So that in and of itself can be very, very beneficial. Another one is progressive muscle relaxation. And that's actually where you tighten muscles, tighten them, and then relax them, right? And so again, what it does is it helps you to get your mind off of what's going on, gives you a different stimulus to focus on, and allows for a little bit of contraction, yes, but then relaxation response afterwards, okay? And then, of course, if you're saying you need to get out of the house, you need to go do something, you can always go do something like Tai Chi as well. Tai Chi is very relaxing, very helpful for managing stress. And there are, of course, a slew of other ways to manage stress as well. Music is a great one. Going out, like doing things you enjoy is good. One of the things I really like to encourage my clients and athletes to do is to do what I call green exercise. And so green exercise is simply where you are out in nature, right? You get outside to do whatever cardio that you might have to do that week. It helps you to disassociate from, one, intense exercise if it's intense, but two, all the things in life, because you can just go out and like look at the trees or the snow or the lake, the mountains, whatever it might be, right? So we can now focus on something that is external, outside of ourselves, which gives us a break from that stressor as well. So these are all healthy coping mechanisms that are going to help you to deal with that stress response. So now we're talking about stress response in general, that's great. How do we deal with the stress response and eating habits? And I think this is obviously the trickiest one that is out there. Because when we see binge eating or eating disordered habits, that's a real thing, and we want to give that the clout and the weight. So we don't want to just try and deal with that alone. So first and foremost, I would encourage you to see somebody who is qualified and able to help you with that. I know that a lot of people will shy you away from seeking help with mental stuff. I don't think that there's anything wrong with it. It doesn't make you weak. It will make you stronger in the end, because you will end up hopefully having power over that situation and that issue. But say maybe your triggers, right? Maybe there are certain things that happen in your life that trigger you for that stress response. Maybe you don't have binging issues until you go through a breakup, right? So if you're going through a breakup, we need to be aware of it and plan that out if, say, you're in a prep or something, so that we can manage that stress response as much as possible. Find some other beneficial and productive ways to manage stress to where you're still being successful with your goals as well. Say your stress response for eating is when your boss comes down on you last minute with a big project. It needs to be done, right? Go home, sweets, long nights, coffees, calorie dense everything, low protein, and just pounding out that project, right? So maybe a good coping mechanism to change that tendency that you have is to go home, eat a big meal, eat plenty of veggies, eat a good protein source, have a small snack with it or some sweets, and then go to work so that you're full throughout that time that you're working, right? Simply having structured meals can help so much because we don't have that feeling of emptiness in our stomachs. Uh, and then, so if we're full, we're not necessarily thinking about food as much. Of course, emotions definitely can get us food centered, but it's just something that we want to pay attention to and be able to mediate as much as possible. So paying attention to what's going on in your life when those triggers happen, when those binging episodes occur, is huge. Because if we can understand what is causing those issues, that's how we can begin to address them. So, but guys, that's it for me. Make sure you manage your stress. I know it sounds funky to hear from a fitness guy that you have to look at stress management, but it is important. It can make your life better, and it can definitely make your life longer. All right, until next time, guys.